Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff live on this Wednesday afternoon. All brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Schmeelk and Dottino with you. The phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Talking Giants football with you. Paulie Dots, you had a little day off yesterday to take a deep breath and think about everything that went down on Monday. So I guess I'll start with you. Do you have any other additional thoughts after sitting on the Giants' decision to stay status quo for 24, 48 hours?
Well, we went over that on Monday, and I don't think that I have anything that will change per that specific topic.
I mean, you were on before the press conferences, though, so anything from the press conferences that maybe you thought was significant?
Well, I did think that Brian Daboll's answer to the potential change in play calling was interesting, because we know how much Brian had expressed his love for calling the plays this past season. And, John Mara had said that was a topic that was under discussion and would continue to be. He said he wouldn't tell the coaching staff how to do it, but it was something that was being considered. And then when Brian Daboll got at the podium while we were doing the show, he apparently said that he broached the topic.
Yeah, but then he kind of backed off of it later and said, maybe he brought it up first. I don't quite remember.
Oh, okay.
He did say that kind of briefly later on in the
I
press
lost
conference.
that later on in the conference.
Yeah.
But so, look.
Either way, the conversation did happen.
And sounds like it will continue. So I think, that was certainly extremely interesting to me after John Mara's presser, which we were able to talk about during the show. Joe Schoen, I think the only item that he kind of mentioned during his presser that kind of perked my ears up, he said Tommy DeVito is the only quarterback under contract. Now, DeVito's an exclusive rights free agent. So technically, they've got his rights, even though he's not under contract. Maybe that's an indication that Joe intends on at least bringing him back to summer camp or spring camp to potentially compete as the 3. Because honestly, we discussed this during the last month, John. I don't think Tommy DeVito did enough to put himself higher than a number 3.
I agree.
So that was a little bit of a potential nugget that came out of Joe's.
And this might be a 4-quarterback room in the spring, and then he has to compete for the 3rd spot.
Oh, I think it will be.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
The Giants, I'm sure, will bring in arms to throw and to see what exactly it is that they have to offer. The other thing that I wanted to mention regarding this whole dynamic isn't exactly related specifically to those 3 press conferences as much as it is that we have now seen reported interest from the Bears and the Saints, who, according to the national media, have asked for permission to talk to Mike Kafka for head coaching interviews. And I think it was clear to us, and please, if I don't want to speak for you if I'm wrong, it was clear to us that there was going to be a detailed review of the staff, and there was going to be at least the potential for changes, either because those people maybe have other things to do, or maybe they would be asked to be replaced.
Or maybe a contract or contract is up. That's possible too, right?
Exactly.
There's a lot of times, even if a head coach might get, say, a 5-year deal, some of the assistants might only get 3-year deals, and that's kind of how that works.
Well, even Brian Daboll, when asked directly about it, did say in the next few days we'll kind of sort through that. He was not committed to making sure that everybody on his staff was going to return.
Correct.
And, while that doesn't indicate action, it does at least tell you that nothing's been decided. And now we notice, again, through the national media, that Mike has gotten, or at least we believe Mike has gotten requests. So, hey, you know what? He got requests last year, too. So if, remember when the Seahawks even called him at one point. Mm-hmm. So
he also got an OC call last year, too. Correct.
He's a really good guy. And if Mike has a really great opportunity that he could take advantage of, hey, that'd be great for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sitting on it, I kind of already had the 24 hours. So from yesterday's show, I kind of said my piece on how everything went down and why I think it went down and why the Giants decided to do what they did. I don't have a ton to add off of that, to be totally honest with you. For the people, and this is going to be everybody now, right? As everyone's attention turns to the NFL draft, though, remember free agency does come first. I know Paul has a list of the Giants players that are restricted or unrestricted, we could probably go through that off the top of the show very quickly. But if you guys and I tweet this out this morning, for those of you on Twitter, if you want to go to the Senior Bowl Twitter page, remember, starting last year, the All-Star games were allowed to invite underclassmen to them.
Yes.
So even though it's the Senior Bowl, they're keeping the name. It's not just for seniors. It's the Everybody Bowl now, really. But if you take a look at some of the guys that they brought in, there are some really, really nice underclassmen on this list that fans should be excited about. I'll just throw out a few names that we'll all start getting more familiar with as the season goes along here. I know Paul he's going to start watching guys soon.
Yep.
We have free agency coming up first. We're planning our Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl thing. We're going to have Eric Galko, who runs the Shrine Bowl on draft season. Is it up yet? It's up already, Pearson? That's up already today on our draft season feed, on our huddle feed, so check that out. And so we're into this now, folks. But here are some of the defensive underclassmen that got announced by the Senior Bowl last year. Nick Scorton. I believe it's Scourton. I got to start getting all these names right. He could be a top 15 pick in edge defensive lineman. He's a guy you like, Paul. He's like 6'5", 285.
I know of him.
He's a big boy.
I have been apprised. I haven't looked at him, but I've been apprised.
And he's got some athleticism.
Yep.
Texas A&M, his teammate Shamar Stewart, who's a good player. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, who's a really good player. Mike Green, small school guy in Marshall, really good player. Deion Walker, a 340-pound super athletic defensive tackle from Kentucky. TJ Sanders from South Carolina, just to name a few. So some really, really good players, especially on defense, get announced to the Senior Bowl. On offense, you had, let me think of some of the names off the top of my head. You had Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami, who is a bigger back. Paul, he's like 235. He's a guy you'd like, I think. He was originally supposed to go to the Shrine Bowl, so I think that was a bit of a poach job right there by Jim Nagy and company. There's always going to be some competition between these bowls to get the best players to go to their particular games. Who are some of the other guys? You had a tight end who, he's really very much a move tight end. Harold Fannin from, I believe he's Bowling Green. And this year for Bowling Green, Paul, as a tight end, and again, I'll look up his height weight numbers. I don't have them in front of me. 117 catches, 1,500 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So he's a small school guy, ultra productive, but again, he's kind of one of these tweener types where I'm not sure he's not going to be an inline guy. But you had Emory Jones from LSU, who I actually watched this morning. Ollie Gordon, the running back out of Oklahoma State, the running back. He got committed to the Senior Bowl yesterday. Jonah, and I have no idea how to pronounce this last name, Savianea from Arizona. He's a guy that could be a day 2 pick on the offensive line. So there's a lot of fun players that got announced yesterday that should make the Senior Bowl very informational. And look, you're going to have a lot of guys in the Senior Bowl this year, Paul, because there's so little consensus on even who the first-round caliber players are and how many there are and who they are and how to stack them, that there are so few players this year that have everything kind of locked up, like, all right, I'm good. I don't need to go and do this. You're going to have guys, I think, you might have guys that eventually go in the top 10 participating in the All-Star games this year, which should be a lot of fun.
Do you have a date to talk to Nagy yet going in? I know you always do.
We did in December.
No. I mean, as we get closer, is there another chance you might be able to talk to him?
I'll probably try to do him the week before we leave for Mobile.
I'll be frank with you. I'd be very interested to hear how this process has gone because of what you just said.
Well, I talked to him about that, and he said, look, they're in contact with the agents for a lot of these underclassmen heading into the area where they're allowed to declare and go to these games, because these guys, if you're an underclassman, you can't even commit to these games until you get to, like, January. So they're holding spots at these, we talked about it. They're holding spots at these positions for these players, just in case they can go. And if they can't, then they have another guy they can slide in and do it. So they had to hold invitations back to some of these underclassmen that they thought were good enough players that they would value to get there. So they got Jalen Milroe going to the Senior Bowl too. That's another guy, the quarterback that people are excited about. Shador Sanders is at the Shrine Bowl for the fans that don't know. We'll see how much he does there. You know how that goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Cam Ward is yet to commit. I got whispers that he had verbally said he might go to the Senior Bowl. That has not been announced yet. But we'll see about that. So a lot of times these guys, 1-2 quarterbacks, sometimes they don't participate in these events. Even last year, there was no Drake May, there was no Caleb Williams, there was no Jaden Daniels. The other guys did it though. Penix did it. Nix did it. So those guys, J.J. McCarthy, he there? Did J.J. McCarthy do one of the All-Star games last year? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did. I know Nix and Penix helped themselves.
Nix and Penix were at the Senior Bowl. They were fine. They didn't fly off the page to me.
No, but they ensured themselves number 1 picks.
I don't know if they assured it to him going in. I mean, I don't think people knew at that point that Nix or Penix were going to be first-round picks. But anyway, if you play well in these events, especially as a quarterback, it certainly gives you a chance to help you big time.
Want to go back to the remark about Sanders at the Shrine Bowl. The whispers that I have heard around the league is that one of the reasons he went to the Shrine game is because there's going to be like a half a dozen of his Colorado teammates there. And that was a big incentive for him because when the Shrine...
Including his brother, by the way. Shiloh's going there, too.
Yes. And so he kind of has a bunch of his guys that he was hoping he could at least have some snaps with them one more time. So that was one of the reasons, apparently, they lured him to go to the Shrine game, which obviously is the lesser of the 2 games, but they've been making an attempt now the last couple of years to try to raise their level.
And also, Travis Hunter has not announced he's attending any games. And I would be surprised if we saw Travis Hunter in one of these All-Star games.
The only other quarterback, I think, and I want to make sure I see the accepted list here, the Shrine people did put it up on there, is McCord from Syracuse.
Kyle McCord to Syracuse to the Shrine game.
He's a Shrine guy.
Yep, and he's had after having a poor year for Ohio State last year, he's been fantastic for Syracuse.
He is a late bloomer, as they say.
I suppose.
I'm looking for, if any other quarterback, let me just see here.
The Rourke kid from Indiana.
Yeah, he is going.
The problem, though, is that he announced he played on a torn ACL this year.
Yeah.
So my guess he might not be healthy enough to participate. So
but anyway,
keep an eye on. And the quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl, I could bring that up real quick. But I mentioned Jalen Milroe. He's going to be there for, you have Shiloh, I believe, is one of the guys, accepted invites. Let me bring this up. I just want to make sure I get the names right. I should have had this prepared before we started. But for quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl committed, you have Milroe, Tyler Show from Louisville, who's one of these guys that's transferred a bunch of times, has a lot of experience. Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, Will Howard from Ohio State, Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Those are some nice quarterback names. Now, you might not have more than one first-round guy in that group, and that's probably Jalen Milroe, but there are some really, really nice players in that list.
Yeah, I did not realize that Dart had already accepted to the senior. He, to me, is one of those project quarterbacks because he's going to go a little bit later. Somebody had said to me...
Someone asked me the other day, again, it's early. I'd said round 3-4 for him, somewhere in that area.
I had been under the impression that he was probably a 4. I mentioned that to one of my football guys last week, and he said, you know how they overdraft these guys, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, and look what he did in his last game at Ole Miss. And I said, yeah, so...
I don't think that should swing people that much. He's been super productive his whole career.
He has. But the guy said to me, don't be surprised if he goes higher than the 4th round. I said, so 3? He goes, oh, yeah. Don't even be shocked if he goes at the end of the 2nd. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be blown away by that, but yes.
This is what happens.
With quarterbacks, you never know.
This is what happens with these guys.
Correct.
And quite frankly, with a rather uninspiring class, all it's going to take is one flash or two from one of these guys, either at a pro day or at an all-star game or at the combine. Something really good happened, and people are going to get excited.
No pun intended. I'm not even making this as a joke, but he is one of the guys I would be willing to throw one of my quarterback darts at over the course of the process.
I really resisted that on purpose.
Well, look, in fairness to me,
I did.
I've been using that expression for the past 3 months, so it's not like I'm just bringing it up for him.
I still am resisting. But I'm not going to go there, John.
I won't do it again, I promise you.
Okay.
All right, we actually have 3 calls up, Paul, so why don't you get your free agent list going? We'll get to it when we have a little extra time, but we got 3 calls up. I want to get to them. I don't want them hanging around for too long. So let's lead it off with Sosa in California. Sosa, I hope you're safe out there with all the wildfires going on, my man.
Yeah, please, give us some good news.
Yes, thankfully, I'm more of the Central Coast, California, so that's away from the fires. Thank God. So,
excellent.
Is the news out there telling you guys that it's starting to be controlled or dissipating at all?
Well, no. Actually, no. Unfortunately, no. It's the wind. the wind is fueling the fire. So once that wind dies down, I think things will be a little bit better, but unfortunately not yet.
Now, Red Sosa, I've read online, and again, you have better local news out there than I do, and this, whatever you see on the internet, you have to take with 10,000 grains of salt. Is it true that, like, some of the fire hydrants, like, haven't had water in them to, like, fight the fire and stuff like that? Is that true?
Yeah, the problem in California, like, because I was born in New York, right?
Right.
The problem in California is that they don't have good drainage. They don't have ways where they capture water.
Yeah, I read another story where, like,
as well.
Yeah, like the public voted in 2014 to supposedly build this big water storage system, like this reservoir system, and shockingly, because you know how well they build things in California, they haven't even started building it yet, even though they funded it like 10 years ago.
Exactly. You know what's going on. Exactly. So that's
I like
the
to
real
read.
problem. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. But thank y'all for everything y'all do. Y'all do a great job. I listen out from California. And I work during the times where the show comes on, so I'm glad I'm off so I can talk to y'all for a bit.
Great, man. The floor is yours, so go ahead. You got it.
For sure. So my first thing, I want to say that I like the continuity. Looking back on things, I'm glad we're bringing both guys back, the head coach and the GM. I'm looking forward to some upgrades. I think the main thing for me is that I personally would like to see a veteran quarterback and us double dip in the draft as well. Like, I think we need to do both of those because I feel like with a veteran quarterback, he will be more prepared, and I think it'll put us in a better place, and we won't have to rush the rookie into things.
So it is rare that Paul, Matt, and I all agree on something because we all have very different perspective. We're from different age groups and such.
Mm-hmm.
I think the three of us, and I don't want to speak for Matt, but I think he said this on the show before, that we all agree that you need to walk out of March, with a quarterback that you would be okay starting in week 1, whomever that veteran is.
Yep.
And then do what you do in the draft, but you need to walk out of free agency or trade, however you acquire that player, with a veteran quarterback you're comfortable starting week 1, and then you supplement that in the draft.
And Sosa, if you've looked at the Giants' schedule in 2025,
it's death.
I was going to say it's nasty, and you'd like to have a veteran who's won games before to deal with that, because as rare as it is for a rookie quarterback to come in and win a bunch of games, imagine throwing him into the cauldron that is the Giants' schedule, John, next year.
It's not great. Go ahead, Sosa.
Yeah, I agree with y'all fully. Just a few QB options I would like. I know we already talked about Justin Fields. And I might be going left field here, but it would be interesting if we can potentially steal Aaron Rodgers. I know what you guys may be thinking, like he's a little bit older, but that's why I feel like if you get him and you supplement and you get a rookie as well, he can learn behind him for a year. I think it might be good.
Now, so let me say this. Real quick, and then you can finish. Simply for the comedic reasons of me having to watch Paul cover Aaron Rodgers, I would be in favor of that just for my entertainment purposes over the next 12 months. I think it would just be the highest level of entertainment for me personally, which would make the experience probably worth it. But from a football perspective, the problem with Aaron Rodgers is I don't think he's shot. I don't think he's like a bad quarterback now. I think he has something left. I think you saw he's not the guy he used to be, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the problem with a guy like Rodgers is that he only wants to do things his way on offense. So it's not like he comes in here and he runs Brian Dable's system. No. He runs in here and he brings his system with him. And we saw what happens with the Jets, even having a guy like Garrett Wilson. Does he get along with Malik Neighbors? Does he help Neighbors? Do they get along? Does Neighbors not go to the, silence retreat with him, and then all of a sudden they don't get along anymore? So there's a lot that comes along with Rodgers that when you have a really young team like the Giants do, I would be very cautious about. Again, you're not just bringing in a quarterback. You're handing your offense over to him. That's how that would work.
So I'm going to give you another really bright caution flag on him. What happens when you bring in the veteran this year for the Giants in March, right? You're going to try, hopefully, to bring in a younger guy underneath him. And you're going to want that veteran to be somewhat of a mentor. Aaron Rodgers, to this point in his career, has shown that he is not real interested in doing that. And if anything, it's going to be a little bit abrasive when he is put into that situation. So with all due respect to the man who is a future Hall of Famer, and I absolutely would vote for him for the Hall of Fame right away as soon as he's up, that is not the situation that I think the Giants should entertain.
I was just saying, just my opinion, but with the draft, I'm really interested, like you guys said about Jalen Milroe. I really hope that we kind of use all of this as a smokescreen, maybe potentially to trade back and go get Milroe, or in the second round, trade up and get him. And one last thing really quick, and I'll take everything else off the air.
Sure.
That running back, Scatbo, we need to make a way for us to draft him. I think we pair him with Tyrone Tracy. I think things would be really good for the whatever quarterback who comes in. So I'll take the rest off the air. Thank y'all so much. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Thank you.
You too, Sosa. Thank you for
safe.
being part of the show and be safe out there, certainly. Look, Scatterbo is a fun player. I don't know if you watched any of the Arizona State college football playoff game. He's a bigger back. He's, I think, like 6 foot 225, something like that. He just, looks like
just a football player.
Yeah, he's got like big hands. He's got a big head. He's, he just looks like one of these guys that's going to pound it between the tackles. Here's the thing, with his contract, odds are Devin Singletary is going to be back next year. Tyrone Tracy is here. I love this running back class. I've probably studied 8 or 9 guys already that I could see being drafted on day 2. I think it's that good of a running back class. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. It's a great class. That's like the one position the Giants don't need anybody at. It's like the one spot. Like, they're good. I don't want to take carries away from Tyrone Tracy. I don't. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I still have a little bit of an itch for that guy who can pound it and move the pile and get you the guaranteed first down on 3rd and short. I'm not sure. To me, Tyrone Tracy, even though he did a nice job of showing more straight-ahead power than what a lot of people anticipated, I would not necessarily. You remember last year, I was all high on Estime, right? Mm-hmm. Austin Estime was a big favorite of mine.
I liked him too.
Now, he did not play a ton this year during his rookie season.
A little bit more towards the end, but early he did not play much at all.
Because I thought that was a component that was kind of missing out of the Giants' room. Well, you know what? I wouldn't draft one high, but if you could take a shot at somebody of that ilk who has the type of bulldozer characteristics, and if you can find me one later on in the draft, John, I wouldn't be adverse to potentially adding one. I really wouldn't.
No, I'd be okay with that, but that would be like a really specific role, not like a 10 to 12 carry a game guy.
Correct.
It would just be a short yardage
He
guy.
would be a role guy.
And remember, that guy would also have to play specials for you then, too.
Yes.
You would have to.
No
just
question.
The way the roster gets set up. All right, let's go to Brandon in New Jersey. He's up next. Hey, Brandon.
How's it going, you guys? I'm glad I popped in the conversation here. Real quick, on my list, my little wish list, I got Rocket Sanders still on there. And every time I do a mock draft, you can get him in like the 6th round, 7th. He's just completely forgotten about. I think he had high expectations coming in, but this season, it wasn't that bad.
No, look, Raheem.
I don't know why.
No, you're talking about Raheem Sanders, who was at Arkansas last year, and then he transferred, right? That's who you're talking about?
I think so.
Yeah, and he's in South Carolina this year.
Yeah, he had a bounce back.
He's a big back, but he's got good speed,
Yeah, he had a bounce back year this year, Brandon. He was projected last year to almost be a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and this season just absolutely fell apart. But he's come back this year, and he had a nice year this year for them. So I could see him, probably, to your point, being a day 3 pick, and he is like 235 pounds. He had some weight problems 2 years ago. But if, you want to pick a guy 5th or 6th round to supplement, I got no problem with that. But again, I do not want to take Tyrone Tracy off the field.
No, and I'm with John there. I would say this, and you're right when you talk 6th or 7th, you could potentially get a big, strong powerhouse guy who's only going to be a role player and strictly be a situational guy. You might even get him as an undrafted free agent.
What if you pick a fullback that you can use in short yardage?
Well, you know how I feel about
They're
fullbacks.
never putting a fullback.
You know that. This man's going right to the heart of me right there with a fullback.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, also, I think we need a Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier gets, 7 carries a game, 8 carries a game?
Probably closer to 10, Brandon, to be honest with you.
A little more than that.
He's probably closer to 10, Algier, to be honest with you.
Did a nice job for them this year, too.
Yeah, good player.
It's been a couple of years of the same thing. He's that change. I wouldn't call him a change of pace. He's a bigger back. To me, Tyrone Tracy gives me more Ahmad Bradshaw, and we all know Bradshaw was a 4th quarter back. He only saw the field after halftime. So I'd like to see, I know you don't want to take reps from him, but I hate when they run running backs into the ground and then devalue them. So get him somebody to share the rock with, and then that keeps him fresh, especially towards the end of the year. You don't have so many, injuries on that position, and you're just not overusing them. I know he's good, but give him he's no Saquon. He's not holding that for years and years by himself. So get him some help, and now you got a 1-2 tag team. We've had it before. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Am I wrong?
No, you're right, Brandon. Remember, though, like I said, Devin Singletary with this contract is going to be back next year. So he's going to be on the roster, and he's going to get carries.
And he's a coach's fave, too.
Yeah.
There's no Earth on the roster. We got Wind, we got Fire. We got
All right, you want some Earth? I got you, Brandon. That's fair. I got you. That's fair. That's fair.
That's good.
Okay, so for the free agent thing, I heard Paulie talking earlier this week about he would prefer a free agent quarterback to drafting one in this draft. I personally believe that the proper answer to that question is both. I do like what you guys were just talking about.
Yeah,
I do
agree.
believe the proper answer is to both get a veteran and to draft a quarterback but now here's my thing with these veterans. I'm not accepting no Jimmy Garoppolo's. My whole metric there is would I rather have Daniel Jones or ex-quarterback? And Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm taking Daniel Jones every time. So I'm sorry, Paul. So these were
okay.
They're not quite free agents, but I think you could get them. I think that the two quarterbacks they should really target is both Malik Willis and Tyson Bagent. And my reason for that is my quarterback I want in the draft is Shedeur Sanders, but nepotism, right? And I don't want him coming into the league kind of like Daniel Jones did, even though nepotism's way more important with Shedeur because of nepotism. I don't want him coming in and just being handed keys. I would like somebody to really be able to run this offense, be young enough to actually be the starter if you don't make it work, and then force you to take the keys versus handing you the keys because you've been – although it is what it is, you have been coddled for your entire career to this point. And I'd really like him to sit more and less. I would like him to come in, sit, learn how to be a professional, learn how to play the NFL game. His biggest thing is being able to read defenses. That's not athleticism, so I doubt that translates day one. Okay, so let him sit, let him learn the game, let him see the speed of the NFL. But a person like a Tyson Bagent, he's a low-cost quarterback. He's got good skill. I know I'm only scouting him from preseason and what you see on TV and whatever. I'm not in the practices, but every time I saw Tyler Bagent, I thought he looked better than Caleb Williams.
All right, two things there.
Year of his contract, I think you can make a deal there.
All right, two things there. As far as and first, let me make something real clear here too. John, and Matt, we are on the same page here. Get a veteran quarterback, and if you're going to take a QB, you take one a little bit later on as a developmental. We're all on that page. I'm not saying the Giants.
I'm not ruling out picking a quarterback high.
Oh, at 3?
I'm not ruling it out.
Oh, okay. I am ruling out taking a quarterback at 3. I will take one later, but I'm not taking one at 3.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we understand each other on that. I got no problem bringing in a young quarterback, but I'm not taking him with the first-round pick. I'm just not. All right. Having said that, so we're clear. Willis, he is signed next season, 2025. He's under contract already. So if you want him,
same with Bagent, by the way. Him and Bagent have the same.
Is also,
they're both drafted in the same year, and they signed 3-year contracts.
Okay, so you're going to have to make a trade. Understand that. There's a trade involved. It's not like you can just sign him off the street with the pending free agents that are out there. So that may or may not alter your opinion
and if I'm
as
not
to whether
mistaken,
you want him.
Wouldn't he be restricted after that, not unrestricted?
Well, let's see. He's played, let me see how many games he's got. You have to be, if you're a 3-year, you know what happens? If you're a 3-year pro, you become restricted free agent, which means you can go out and get an offer sheet.
Which gets very, anyway, the point is
sticky.
The point is you have to trade for either one of those guys.
Right.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah. Right.
I was definitely
and by the way, he also doesn't have a lot of actual game experience and hasn't had a lot of wins under his belt. I'd want someone who's got a little bit more on the wall already.
All right, Brandon, I'm going to throw, to me, I'm going to categorize these veterans into kind of 2 different buckets here, right? I'm going to push Sam Darnold aside because, in my opinion, that they're either going to franchise him or sign him long term. We'll see what happens in the playoffs.
He gets big money somewhere else.
One of those 3 scenarios, I think that's a very unlikely thing that happens for the Giants. So you have the older guys where you know what they are. They have some experience starting games in the league, and you kind of know that the ceiling is low on these guys, right? These are the guys in that bucket I'd give you. Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, Jacoby Brissett. I'll put Jarrett Stidham in that group, though I think he's a little bit in between. Drew Lock would be in that group. Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Andy Dalton.
Mason Rudolph. He's too old. I'm not bringing the 37. I'm not even going to include him.
Okay.
And that's why I didn't include Case Keenum on the list either.
Okay.
He's just too old.
That's fine.
Cooper Rush at 31, actually. He's done a decent job starting for Dallas when he's had to over the last couple of years. So that's kind of that group of players. Then you have the next group of players, which is, all right, they're young. They've showed some level of promise. Maybe they were a high draft pick. We don't know exactly what we're getting, but maybe there's a shot at some upside there. These are the guys I put into that group. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and that's probably the Kyle Trask. Does he get you excited? That's probably the end of that younger Desmond Ridder. He's going to be a restricted free agent, but I'd put him in that group. That's kind of the group that I would have in the younger guys where it's probably a little bit more volatile, but you have some more upside, maybe a little less trustworthy and then versus the veteran guys. So, Brandon, do you like the younger guy bucket or do you like the older guy bucket?
Truthfully, I don't like any of them. And that's why I said what I said was that if I compare you to Daniel Jones, look at that list again, either list, I don't care. Put Daniel Jones there.
Yeah, but Brandon, here's the difference. If the Giants,
you're going to say Daniel Jones.
No, but the problem is that Daniel Jones is making $40 million a year. Or, I'm sorry, let me correct that, around $36 million a year. But Brandon, my point is that you can accept maybe a little bit less than that because they're making so much less money. You know what I'm saying?
You just had Drew Lock.
I think, I see what you're saying. I think some of the guys I listed would probably get more money than Drew Lock got in the offseason last year.
Brandon, and I'm going to be very careful how I word this because I don't want to be accused of doing something that I'm not allowed to do. If you are Team X and you are interested in trading for an accomplished veteran, there are supposedly gentlemen who could potentially be on their way out. For example, New Orleans and Atlanta.
And by the way, all the guys I just listed there, by the way, are free agents after the year. That's why I had those guys in those two buckets.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Paul,
mean, there are rules here about how much we can say about guys who are under contract to other teams. But I think you understand that there are national reports that indicate, for example, a gentleman like Kirk Cousins or like Derek Carr might be available on the marketplace if those teams decide that they are going to be done with them. There may be others in that same boat or bucket, as you called, John. That might also be a potential avenue that you could go down. Just letting you know that there are other names in addition to the ones that we rattled off.
Now, those guys, too, Brandon, are going to cut into your salary cap space,
yes,
too,
they will.
which ends up being a little bit tricky.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want Sam Darnold because he's going to cut a lot into it, and we already got enough dead cap. All right, cool. So, look, I want to get to some other quick ones on the offseason.
Yeah, real fast.
Hitters.
Go ahead.
The Saints are in a horrible cap situation. I would like to try to steal Parson Adolbo from them. He's at the end of his rookie contract, and they're in an awful cap situation. They're not going to be able to sign him.
You mean the cornerback out of Stanford? I'm just making sure I got the guy you're talking about correct.
Yeah, the cornerback in the Saints. Yeah, Parson Adolbo.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah, so, and then, John, I do have but let me get to these. I don't want to hold your time too long. So then I had a question about the scouting. Like, I see how people fall through the cracks. The last 2 years are my only real years watching college football, and I really like a few players. And I think I asked you already about this guy once before, John, was O'Donnell Fortune. I told you I was watching Rocket Sanders. There's a corner over. Hey, that guy, he's playing. That guy is for real over there. Big, long, lanky, not the tallest, not the fastest, big, long, lanky corner. But he's like, when I look, he's not even like in anything draftable. And after the Alabama game, I don't think I saw a single team throw him the ball, throw the ball his way. in the FCC, if you're not targeting a corner, shouldn't that automatically make you draftable?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have not watched that player yet, so I wish I could give you a strong opinion on him, but I do not have one as of yet. What's his last name?
All right,
you said, what's his last name?
Watch him, and then last thing is about Howard Cross III. That is our Howard Cross's son, right?
Yes. It is. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I saw him. He doesn't look absolutely dominant at the tackle position, but he looks like a good player. And I want to give Patty Traynor a good feel-good story, man. Can we please get him on the roster? Please.
Now, I just want to make sure. What was the name of the South Carolina corner that you like so much?
O'Donnell Fortune, number 3.
O'Donnell Fortune. All right, I will check him out when I have time. I was going through players this morning.
All right, my man.
I appreciate it.
This isn't the last. I'm serious. Last thing. Linebacker. The other thing I was going to say was about D tackles. That's why I brought it up. I don't know if our D tackles is the biggest issue in the run game. So much as it is, I know that Bobby is the mic, and he makes all the calls.
Yeah.
But Bobby's skill set really says he's more of an outside linebacker. He's better side to side. He's better at coverage. He gets downhill quick. He's awesome. Whereas Micah McFadden, his side-to-side play isn't the greatest. And that's where I think our biggest run games happened was on the outsides or where his gap moved. And then he didn't get to that gap. So now it looks like, we don't have D tackles and they're running all over the place. And really, I just think our linebackers are playing mixed-matched in their spots. So linebacker, what do you guys think of linebackers coming out of college as well? And that's it. That's it for me. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. Good, Brendan. Very good questions. Good call. Good conversation. I'd be honest with you, I have trouble scouting linebackers in college. It's such a different game. And I think it's hard to figure out which one of these guys are gonna hit. Like, you can just pick a really good athlete. Who was the really small, undersized, fast linebacker that the Chargers drafted a few years ago?
Well, while you take a look at that, the other problem here is...
So anyway, what I was going to say is that, just real quick, I almost want to let the league figure out who the good linebackers are, and then when they hit free agency after 4 years, you give them like a medium. It's not like Okereke's crazy expensive.
Like Zach Baun, right?
Like Zach Baun. Patrick Queen is a guy that signed for not a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, that's true.
There's been a bunch of linebackers that have swapped teams that I think you can kind of just... That's a position I like attacking free agency with. I don't necessarily like attacking the draft with that position.
The problem with linebackers, and it really piggybacks off of what John just said, is that you need to know how you're going to use them here. That is such a big deal. We talked about this in the past, for example, with Micah Parsons, right?
Kenneth Murray, that was the small linebacker.
There you go. That's true.
That's one of these guys that was first-round pick, super athlete. He just couldn't figure out the mental part of the NFL game. It's hard.
And you have to also know how they're going to fit into the scheme. Like, for example, Bobby Okereke, right? I think part of the reason that Bobby Okereke's numbers were down this year, his tackles, and maybe you'll agree, John, is that there was not enough traffic up front, okay? Too many times when guys would run the ball, they would get pushed on the Giants' defensive front. And Okereke would either get caught out of position because he was trying to fill a gap that somebody else left open, or because the guys on the offensive line or the fullbacks, then there are some fullbacks in this league, they were getting a hat on Bobby.
Yeah, too often offensive
linemen
we're getting to the second level on him.
Bobby Okereke is a guy who needs some space and some freedom to operate.
He needs to be able to run to the ball.
That's it.
I agree with you.
And he got caught too much that there was either traffic or he was trying to fill somebody else's vacated gap. And I think that's why his production was down.
Yeah.
I think he can play the position.
Of all the players on the defense.
But he needs circumstances.
Sorry for interrupting. Of all the players on the defense, I think he is the one that got impacted the most by the scheme change this year.
Yes. Well, he and I thought Tay Banks too. Those two guys.
Here's my thing with Tay Banks. I agree allowing some of the stuff in front of him maybe, but the issues at the catch point is the same issues he had in Wake Martindale's game. And in the end, if he's going to become a good corner, you can, if you give him a few catches in front of you for 8-9 yards, you can live with those. Those aren't going to kill you, and you could fix that. But until he finishes the issues with the ball in the air at the catch point and getting his head around and not grabbing and all these same things. And by the way, these were the issues we talked about him. As much as we loved him coming out of Maryland, with the issues that we had on coming at Maryland too, right?
Mm-hmm. Grabby.
Yes.
Very overly physical.
And getting your head around when the ball's in the air. Now, and he still hasn't. And look, we're not saying anything out of turn here. Shane Bowen said that at his final press conference of the year. Jerome Henderson has told us about that a million times, and both of us know. We can't talk about some of the details, but he went to great lengths to try to get Deonte Banks to make plays on the ball.
Indeed he
did. A lot more. And it just hasn't clicked yet. Scheme or not.
I think what happens, though, is when you play less of the man and the press coverage that he was used to, it exacerbates that problem.
Maybe. I mean, I still
think it does.
Once the ball's in the air, I think no matter what scheme you're playing.
But we agree about Okereke being the most affected by the scheme.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt about
yes.
that.
All right, 201-939-4513. We'll take a couple more calls, Pierce. Let's not screen anyone else. Let's take our final two calls, and we'll go through our wins contest. Do you have the wins total up? You got them to go? All right, beautiful. So if you guys remember, right, Paul and I did our wins contest before the year where we each picked, I think, half dozen teams, something like that. I'll have to look at what the team.
Pearson did too.
Yeah. Each of us picked 6 good teams, and then we had to pick, I think, one team that was picking the top 10 of the draft or had 6 or fewer wins. There was some kind of weird stipulation I put in there. And we see who would have the most wins at the end of the year. I have not looked at it. Pearson has.
And then I picked from the garbage heap.
Yes, and then Pearson, well, you were cocky. You said, guys, I think I'd be able to beat you by just picking the teams that are left.
I can't wait to see how he finished.
I'm pretty sure.
You were extremely confident, Mr. Pearson.
Okay.
It's that Celtic blood in him.
Now Wilson called over in the week. Are we giving him dispensation for a second call, Pearson?
He said he'd be very quick.
Okay. Wilson in Roxbury. Hi, Wilson.
Listen, Johnny, listen, Pearson said, thank you, Pearson, but I know you don't believe me that I keep calling, but I'm going to find it myself to give you. I have to give you a break the off season because, I don't want to give you nightmares anymore.
You can
and
call up whenever you Wilson, you can call up whenever you want, man.
No,
I just have fun with you, bro.
I know. Listen, I know, Johnny, I'm just kidding. I just like to have fun with you guys. That's all. But listen, real quick, though. 7 things real quick. Number one, I know you didn't agree with me, but number one, this move topples the Ray Handley move. That's one of the worst in Giants history. This move that John Mara did. But I know why he did it. He did it because he's fatigued. He's fatigued of doing it over and over again. That's why he did it. Nobody believes, no Giants fans believes that he believes in this.
Now, Wilson, Wilson, real quick, I want to ask you one simple question because we haven't spoken since this decision got made.
Yeah.
Is this a better situation for you personally than if they had, say, kept Joe but let Brian go and split the baby?
No. It would have to be. It would have to be a clean slate. I told Paulie this the other day.
Yeah, but I got a better.
I always believe.
Did you do your homework, Wilson? Did you do your homework? I gave you three points to do homework on. Did you do it?
Okay. I did it, Paulie. All right, so
let's go. Let's have it.
I wouldn't let. Oh, but you're telling me as a manager or was John Mara? Because I can't be a manager because I'm not going to be around.
This is what I told him the other day, John. Wilson called up and he bellyached about everything like he always does. Yeah. And I said, okay, here's your homework. You're the general manager of the team. Hold on. I'm explaining to him the rules.
Say a couple of things to Johnny.
Wilson. You're the general manager of the team. You can't touch the coaching staff because at the moment they've been told that they're staying. Give me the 3 things that you would do to help improve the team. I asked him to try to be positive.
Okay. So let Wilson address what he wants to address, and then we'll give him a chance to answer your questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So that was number one. Number two is the excuses are already there for next year. Well, the schedule is too tough. Now, unfortunately, that's not going to fly with Mr. Mara. That's not going to fly. It might fly with everybody, but it won't fly with him. Number 3, you, Johnny, you've been doing this a long time. You too, Paulie. No head coach and general manager goes into the last year of the contract without an extension. So if they don't get an extension this year, that tells you everything you need to know.
Well, Wilson, just real quick, I don't know the details of their contract personally, but it's widely reported that they are both on 5-year deals. So. Right.
5 years. This will be the 4th year.
Correct. Okay.
They cannot go on
I thought you meant this offseason, not next offseason. I got you, Wilson. I got you. And by the way, there is one team that does do that, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. But other than that, no one else generally lets coaches go into their final year of their contract. Yes, that's correct.
John Mara.
I'm with you. All right, number 4.
Johnny, listen, and I guess Paulie, listen, I love you, but what do you expect a player to say when they have a microphone in their face? I mean, Paulie, it's me now. It's me. I mean, what do you want to say, Paulie? No, I don't like the situation.
I'm still waiting for your homework assignment, and I still haven't heard anything about it. But okay, go ahead.
Because Pierce told me I have to be quick, so I want to tell Johnny this stuff. Don't hang up on me.
Okay, no, Wilson. Here we go. Wilson, finish your points when you call next week.
Okay.
When Paul's on, then you can have your homework assignment ready. Okay.
All right. We'll put it off. You have extra time.
Extension.
You have an extension. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my last 2 points.
And you're right. As far as players with a mic in their faces, there's no question that more often than not, they will say something either neutral or positive.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
That's
so
fine, but that doesn't automatically indict them either.
All right, so listen, my next to last thing is this. Sometimes in a bad situation, there's a silver lining. You know what the silver lining might be?
You tell me. You're calling.
Oh no, I'm saying that if somehow, Johnny, we get the Giants give me a season, it'll be such out of left field. I'll probably enjoy more than a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in a win-win situation here.
It's the freedom of low expectations, Wilson. Good for you,
Johnny, this is a doozy.
Oh, jeez.
Did you not feel that way in 2022? By the way. When there were no expectations and they won a playoff game?
Paulie,
you didn't enjoy that, Wilson? Seriously?
No. And let me tell you why. In 2022, it was Joe Shane and Brian Dable. It was a fresh of air because we went through Joe Judge. So it was the unknown. That's what I told Johnny the other day. John Mara, the only thing that John Mara could have sold Giant fans was the unknown. But I know why he didn't do it. I mean, it's because everybody, you know what? Everybody thinks, Johnny and Paulie, it's not just the general manager and the coach, Johnny. It's all the assistants, man. It's all the practice, changing the practice, probably all the scouting. It's not just that. I know what Mr. Mara didn't do it, man. I wouldn't want to do it either, but whatever. But listen, Johnny, this is the doozy. Imagine what happens if Saquon wins on Saturday, right? And Daniel somehow has to go in to the Minnesota game against the Rams Monday night, and somehow he actually does something to actually help them win the game. Johnny, John Mara will burn the building down. I wouldn't go to work on Tuesday.
Wilson, appreciate the call.
Listen, I love you, and Paulie, thank you for putting up with me this whole season, Johnny. You know, I say crazy stuff, but everything is in good fun. You know that.
All right, you be good.
Wilson. Appreciate the call, my friend.
And I want that homework assignment next week.
Hey, look, guys.
Just overwhelmed every time he calls.
Yes, he is. But look, guys, we all know what went into the Daniel Jones decision, and it was
right.
If it was just all about the best quarterbacks being on the roster, he would have still been here. But there was a financial component. We all know that.
I mean, we try to tell you that things in the NFL are not in a bubble. There are other components that will always impact a decision. Nothing is just a one straight easy call. It just doesn't work that way.
And again, but to our point at the time, too, if Daniel had played well enough, it would have overridden the financial part of the conversation.
If he had played consistently high football and the Giants had a one-loss record that had still kept them in the mix, I would venture to say they would have taken the risk and allowed him to play.
I'm with you on that. All right, let's go to Coach Marvin. He will wrap us up today. Coach, what do you got?
How you guys doing?
We're good.
That's good. I think we're talking about Daniel. If Daniel would have been, if we would have been more competitive and more consistent, even if we'd have lost, if they'd have been competitive, you can actually see. Your eyes are not going to lie when it comes to guys playing. Sometimes guys, they just compete and they can't win. But that doesn't mean they're bad players. And I think if he was a little more consistent with his game, he would still be here playing. I just think he was a little too inconsistent, and that's what caused them. And they didn't let him go. As far as I know, I don't know everybody saying like they know. As far as I heard, I thought he asked for his release.
No, he did.
They let him go.
That is true. He did.
Right.
That is true. But they were willing to acquiesce, Coach. That's the point. I mean, they could have said no.
You want to do, Coach, on my call screener sheet here, said you want to talk about the draft. What do you have in the draft today?
Right. Well, everybody was talking about the quarterback. You made a list. a lot of those guys are you don't want to take your chances with most of those guys. The only one I heard is the younger guys that I would like, the Cousins of the world. It's going to cost you some money, but I'm not a fan of those guys. It's going to come down to who they can work with, and I think Fields is probably the best one to work with. You threw out Zach Wilson. That surprised me a little bit. Maybe I can deal with them, but I would like to see them go with Fields, and I would like to see them if they pick in third. If I wouldn't really go up to get one of the two unless one of those two come to me, and you have to know which one of them you wanted. And if I can't get those, then I would be similar to Paul. Then I would fall back and say, you know what, I'm gonna have to pick one this year, and I'm gonna do it later. This year, then I would have to go with Travis Hunter. I know this is a guy that has the potential of being a star, and I can kill two birds with one stone. He's proven he can play receiver, and he definitely can play cornerback.
Where would you want him as his primary position, Coach?
Cornerback, because that's his high ceiling is that cornerback position. Because I talked to you a week ago, John. The college game, the cornerbacks don't play. I believe they're being coached. I was at a high school game, state championship in Maryland at the beginning of December down at the Navy Academy, and I was watching them play, and I got a chance to talk to one of those kids, and he was telling me that's how they taught him, is that they're playing the man, and if you feel that you are getting beat, you grab him. And that's where the grabbing comes from.
Well, yeah, and because in college it's only a 15-yard penalty, right? So
it's only a 15-yard penalty in high school and in college. Right. Exactly. And they carry that over and over again. They play that way, and it becomes a muscle memory.
Right. It becomes a habit. Correct. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's a habit
100%.
for them. So they never look for the ball because they're not being taught to look for the ball. So I believe, I might be wrong, but 95% of the college players that play cornerback are playing that way.
Now, Travis Hunter has great ball skills.
Travis Hunter
great
does
ball
not play
skills.
that
Correct.
way.
I agree with you on
Travis
that.
Hunter, he plays the ball, and if you watch him, he can see the whole field. I've seen him play a certain man when he has one in front and one in behind him. And he'll make the quarterback believe he's playing the man up top, and he will cut it short and come back underneath, timing it just right to pick him off. So he's a true corner, and he's a playmaker in the wide receiver position, which I think will be a good complement to Neighbors.
Coach, Jordan Reed had something on ESPN yesterday, and it really echoed what I said on the show the other day. For me, Travis Hunter is a shutdown corner, and if you had a small package at receiver for him, maybe when you go four wides, or maybe not four wides, I don't know, whatever the package is, he may get 8 plays a game on offense.
I would say anywhere from
small.
6 to 12 is a number that I've been using. A half dozen to a dozen.
And that, to me, you draft him primarily as a corner, but he can help you some and spark you in certain situations on offense too.
That's how I would look at it too.
Right, and you both are right, and y'all are in the range of where that needs to be because it's situational football when you bring him in. You don't need him on first down automatically bringing him in. It's situational football with him when it comes to playing wide receiver. When I'm in a certain situation and I know I need Neighbors, him and Robinson in together to create something that I need to be done, that's when he's going to go on the field. He's always going to be the corner, and he's going to be a situational wide receiver. But if I couldn't get him, we're talking about the off linebacker. I do like Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
I do like him, and I like him with the two guys we got, Burns and Thibodeau. And now one of them going to have to play off ball. Carter did play off ball, I think, last year.
He did.
Played off ball.
He did. Yeah, he did.
So, so he has he's familiar with the position, and if you can get those guys in there, I believe that will be great. That's why I wouldn't take the quarterback in the first round, like Paul is saying. And if I can't get the one I want out of these two, if I can't, then I have to go with a tackle. And this guy, I think it's Ty Robinson, I believe his name is. I can't think of the school. Oh, from Nebraska.
Coach, appreciate the call. Yeah, I don't think Robinson is going to be that high of a pick. If you're looking for a defensive tackle, you're looking at Mason Graham.
Got to be Graham.
Or Banks, and then you have the LSU tackle, too, if you're looking at offensive tackle. So, look, you have some options here. I happen to agree with Coach. I haven't finished. Travis Hunter's going to be a long evaluation because he played so many snaps on both sides of the ball, so it's a lot of football to watch. I'm going to try to – what I'm trying to do now, guys, just FYI, is get through as many of the Senior Bowl and Shrine guys as possible. So I tried to do most of the top 10 guys before this. I've watched enough of Travis Hunter, or I agree with Paul. I think corner, part-time receiver to start. And people laugh when I say this to them, but I mean it. What makes Travis Hunter attractive to me, look, we all know corner is a very difficult position to play. And it's very volatile from year to year. Guys, they can be great one year, not great the next. If Travis Hunter gets into the league and you figure out that he's not as good of a corner as you think, just turn him into a full-time wide receiver. So you have 2 shots with one player to hit. That is attractive to me because it lessens the risk.
Well,
and it's not like he hasn't been great at, both spots anyway. So that to me is an attractive proposition. Then I'm getting 2 bites of the apple where, all right, maybe he doesn't work out a corner. All right, flip it. Wide receiver time.
That's kind of what a lot of folks say about offensive linemen. If the guy doesn't work out at tackle, maybe we can make him a guard. Or if a guy doesn't work out at center, maybe we make him a guard.
Right, but at least
I get it.
With some offensive linemen, you haven't seen the guys play guard before.
No, this guy's done it.
You've seen this guy do both and do it well.
Yes. He is the most talented player. Pure talent to be able to do it, what he did at the level he did. He's the most talented player in the draft.
I got to be honest with you. I'm watching all the non-quarterbacks that I probably watched the top 15 non-quarterbacks. Abdul Carter is the guy that has me the most intrigued from the other non-quarterback players.
I saw a couple of Penn State games this year, and believe me, he sticks out like a sore thumb.
He moves. His movement skills
are very impressive.
Very impressive.
Well, I've tried to tell people that for me, that's why if the Giants would have moved down a few slots, which I also believe is in play.
If you want Hunter or Carter, though, you better not move down too many.
I think if you go down to 6 to where the Raiders are, okay?
And I'd be okay with Mason Graham at 6'2".
That's my point.
For Michigan. I'd be okay
That's
with
my
that
point. I got 4 non-quarterbacks who I'd be very pleased with. And you know who they are. Graham, Hunter, Carter, and Will Johnson.
Johnson's your 4th guy. See, I'm not.
Those 4
I'm
guys.
not there on Johnson yet.
I get any one of those 4, and they'll all happen to be defensive players.
I would put.
I'm good.
I might slide Tech McMillan in there instead of Johnson.
Understood. Johnson didn't play a lot of snaps this year, comparatively speaking.
And
I understand that.
I don't love his play. He's very talented, but his play style, I don't know.
Love his length.
No, he's very long, and he might not run he might run like high 4.4s, low 4.5s.
Understood.
And he does have some interceptions. He's one of those guys
plays the ball pretty well.
He got burnt deep a bunch of times last year, not this year, the year before. So I don't know. I'm going to go back and do another full watchable Johnson. I'm going to watch every one of his targets the last 2 years.
Okay.
But the first go through, I was not blown away and convinced.
But you'll take 3 out of my 4, no questions asked.
I would absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
So if you did move down to 5, you're still going to get one of your guys probably, because 2 quarterbacks go, then the next 3.
Yes.
So 5
even 6.
Okay. So I could go to 6. You might not be able to go to 6.
I just don't know how much you're getting going down to 5. But the Raiders are 6.
Raiders are 6.
That's if there's a quarterback there at 3, that's the team that would want to move up.
Well, see, I could see it happening that if somebody in the first 2 takes a quarterback
and
somebody takes Hunter, I could see going down to 6.
And look, I've watched about 5 or 6 games of both Sanders and Ward, so my opinions aren't in stone, but they're written in pencil right now.
Okay.
I have an erasable tablet. You've seen it.
I know. I have. It's really cool, too.
And I would pick Ward at 3 right today. If you told me Cam Ward's there at 3, would you select him? I'd say yes, I would.
Mm-hmm.
If Shador was there at 3, not sure.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with all the Dad's Dion and all that other stuff. Just as a player, I'm not all the way there yet on him.
The problem is especially.
But I might change my mind when I'm done with the tape.
Especially at that neighborhood, the problem is everything does have to come into play.
Right.
Context is important.
I haven't heard, I've not heard and seen or heard or read any red flags about him as a personality and as a person.
No,
I've not heard any bad things
I.
that he's a bad kid or he's going to be a pain or a diva, any of that stuff. I've not heard any of that about him. Any of that. But who knows? Again, just as a player, I would be okay with Ward there. Sanders, I'd be a little hesitant. All right, Pearson, this was the wins contest. So
all right, let's do it.
All three of us, Paul and I got our choice of the teams, and Pearson took the teams that were left. We each picked 6 good teams, and then we had to pick one team that I believe finished with 6 wins or fewer. I'm trying to jog my memory. I think that was the rule.
Okay.
So before Pearson gives the number of wins, I will give the teams that each one of us wound up with. Okay?
I can list that too and give their records.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Go ahead, Pearson.
All right, here's John's list. Lions 15-2, Texans 10-7, 49ers 6-11, Bengals 9-8, Packers 11-6, Bills 13-4,
Yeah.
Cardinals 8-9.
I feel pretty good about that group.
It's a decent list.
You know, if you remember this, Pearson, you got mad at Paul and I.
Oh, God.
Both of us kept passing on the 49ers.
Yes.
And you're like, well, why don't you guys just pick them already? And I eventually did it, and see what happens? They're picking like 11th in the draft.
He couldn't
they had close
hold
games.
his breath
They did.
long enough.
Yes.
The way he kept going for the San Francisco.
That was Pearson peer pressure right there.
I saw it. I saw it.
I ended up with the Eagles
and
somehow.
you fell for
I know.
it.
I don't know how you did that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, for
ahead.
Paul's team. Chiefs 15-2.
That's good.
Jags 4-13.
Oh.
Rams 10-7. Ravens 12-5. Raiders 4-13.
Ooh.
Falcons 8-9. Giants 3-14.
Oh, I got hit bad
It's
on 3 of those teams.
Jaguars and Raiders.
I think you picked the
there.
Jags like third too.
Yeah, I believe you did.
Yeah. And I was much higher on Antonio Pierce making a better showing.
Who was let go yesterday, by
Yes,
the
he
way,
was.
which was tough to see. I didn't want to reach out to him yet. I'm sure he's not in a good spot right now.
He's
but
just a really awesome dude.
yeah, very sad for AP. All right, who do you got,
And
Pearson?
my list: Jets 5-12,
Oof.
Dolphins 8-9.
That was an injury. I'm not going to kill you on that.
I just took the rest of the AFC East. Pats 4-13, Bucks 10-7,
Okay.
Browns 3-14,
Oh.
Cowboys 7-10,
All right.
Eagles 14-3.
All right, so what were the totals?
Final scores: John went 72-47,
Nice.
Paul 56-63,
Oh.
me 51-68. I wasn't far behind you, Paul.
All right, so this year, Pearson, this year you're going to get to pick with us.
I
when we
like
do
it.
This,
I
okay?
like it.
This year you're going to get to pick with us because, again, he got the scrap, so I'm not going to kill Pearson too bad.
No.
And now you and
Although he was pretty boisterous about his scraps.
nah, he was a little boisterous.
Yes, he was.
Was I boisterous? I'm going to have to look back at that.
Now, you beat me the first year. I don't think quite as convincingly as I beat you.
No,
I think
this
it was a little bit closer.
This was a beatdown.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
It was
Your worst team was the 49ers.
your homerism got in your way again.
Well, I picked the Raiders
with the
because of AP,
and the Giants.
and I really thought the Giants were going to be better.
I thought the Giants would be better too. I
Now-
felt good about the Cardinals because of Kyler Murray being there the whole year, and that was my thinking with that. But it is what it is.
Jacksonville.
And now Pearson was a homer too with one of his picks too, which got,
I
that's
don't know
okay.
about that.
Jacksonville really made me bleed out too. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, while I have never been a big Doug Peterson fan, I have respected his results, and I allowed that to cloud my judgment between him and Trevor
Well,
Lawrence.
you also like Trevor Lawrence.
Between him and Trevor Lawrence, I figured, you know what, there's going to be a good chance that they're going to have some good results there, and that didn't happen.
No, and look, that was one of the more disappointing teams. The Niners were disappointing.
Absolutely.
The Falcons and Bucks, they were about where I think all of us thought that they would be around like between 10 and 8 wins. Those teams at the top of the
Yeah.
NFC South, that wasn't that surprising. AFC South, I picked the Texans third, second actually. I think that didn't turn out to be a great pick. Somehow I got the Bills sixth. I don't know how I did that, but I was picking between the Bills and the Eagles maybe for that last pick. I don't quite remember.
Yeah.
But
I wonder who the best team was that we didn't pick.
that's a good question. Who would be the best team that we didn't pick in this?
Colts went 8-9. Did we do
playoff-
Broncos?
the Broncos.
It's definitely the Broncos.
made the playoffs.
Or the
and they were
Commanders.
not selected, and the Commanders. Good call.
Commanders for sure.
Those are the two teams, and the Seahawks probably, right? What did the Seahawks finish with, 8 wins this
Wait
year?
a minute, the Vikings?
Yeah, none of us picked the Vikings.
Wow.
In fact,
No.
I remember you thinking about picking the Vikings in
this
contest.
I had thought about
They
it,
were on your list.
and then I backed off.
Yeah, I think you got a little dicey there. Yeah, so 3 playoff teams, including one 13-win team, we did not pick. I don't think anyone was complaining us on the Vikings.
14 for the Vikings.
Yeah, 14. That's right. And look, no one, and you know me. I never jumped off the Sam Darnold boat. I was gonna stay on that boat until it hit the rocks, and everyone there was like
and that's
a Titanic
ultimately
situation.
why I stayed away.
I know
because of Darnold.
I know. It is what it is. Paul, good times.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm with you tomorrow.
Okay.
And then you are with SciTac on Friday. I'm going to try to take Friday off on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Thank you to Pearson. Thank you to the callers. I'm happy we're getting some different voices on here the offseason. I really find it funny that our in-season callers and our off-season callers are kind of almost two distinct groups in a lot of ways.
This is true.
Which is kind of cool. I like that as we dip into the drafts and free agency and all the fun stuff as the Giants try to figure out how to be better, God willing, in 2025. For Paul, for Pearson, I'm Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I mentioned the Giants Huddle, by the way. Draft season up there right now. You have the Rapid Reaction that's up there. You have Giants Hangout that's up there. And then I'm going to talk to Art Stapleton, let's say Wednesday. I'll talk to him tomorrow. It'll post on Friday. Just kind of wrapping up what happened at the end of the year and talking some Giants football with Art. All right, that's our show, everybody. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow at 12:30 for another episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live.